Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's trip to Waterpark? I, female 29, am a big fan of water parks, and so are my nieces, 16, 15, 13. Before COVID, my boyfriend and I wanted to go for a big trip to one of the biggest water parks I've ever been to, so one of the most expensive too. Then COVID happened and we missed it. This year was a total nightmare. My boyfriend and I are residents, and our hospital got understaffed, causing us to work double shifts on a regular basis. Due to our work schedule, my nieces helped us out with dogs from time to time, taking them on walks, etc. as we live on the same street. So when the water park opened, we decided to take a whole weekend off and just go. My brother, my niece's dad, called me and said that the girls really wanted to go too. Openly said he can't afford a trip and asked if we could take them, and he would pay us back once things got better for him. My boyfriend and I decided we would love to take them, and we don't want any money back, partly because they're kids and they deserve to have some fun, and partly because we wanted to show our appreciation for taking care of our dogs. Then my sister, female 22, heard about it all and asked me if she and her girlfriend, female 22, can go too. I said sure, we all should go together, as I thought they just wanted to join us there. A few days after our conversation, I texted her about the dates of the trip, and that's the end of our conversation. One day before the trip, she called me and asked me at what time would we pick them up. I was confused and told her our car has 5 seats only, so they need to drive by themselves. She got a little annoyed because she didn't plan the road trip, and then asked me which hotel they should head at. The water park has 3 of them. I said, I don't know, check which one you booked on your email. And firstly, she got silent, and then she got mad. She thought I booked the hotel for them, and she started freaking out. I also told her I haven't booked their water park passes either, and she got even more mad. The prices for that weekend went really high, so she asked me to PayPal her the money. I refused. She got really upset that I wouldn't pay for her and would pay for my nieces. Said I just prefer them over her. I promised her the trip, so I can't say no now, etc., etc. Then my mom called me and asked me to go 50-50 with her on my sister's trip, but I also refused. I'm not a bankomat. She's an adult and she makes her own money choices. But she thinks if I can pay for, my nieces, I should be able to take her too. Only my brother stood up for me, and we have this whole family drama now. My family thinks I am the a-hole because I stood my sister up. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. There's no possible way you are the a-hole here. Your sister just made a lot of assumptions, none of which were reasonable to make. Your mom encouraging her behavior, I'm guessing, is a big part of the problem. I hope you and your nieces have a great time. Thank you. We have already been there last weekend, and although this is definitely my favorite water park so far, I just felt awful getting all the hate messages from my family. Apparently my sister spent the whole weekend crying, and I started to wonder, is my judgment off and am I in the wrong? But now I see everyone is agreeing with me, so I feel a little more confident. Honestly, even if your fully grown adult sister expected you to take her daughter with you for free since you are taking your other nieces, you would still be not the a-hole. You're not an ATM machine. You're taking those kids specifically because they helped you out, and also their dad offered to pay you for those tickets. Not the a-hole. Nothing to feel guilty about. Just being a kid. She needs to be told that. You're not made of money. If your mom had a different opinion, she could have paid for her daughter. Not the a-hole. Your sister's 22. She's old enough to pay for herself. What is it with all of these full-grown adults? I've seen quite a few posts where just because a relative is covering/paying for someone's kids, they automatically think they should get a free ride too. How does that even begin to make sense in their minds? Not the a-hole. As an adult, you don't hear about another adult's trip, ask if you can go too, and then assume they are going to pay for you. So rude. Also, how on earth did you think you were all going to get in the car? Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not calling my dad and stepmother when it looked like my sister might not make it after delivery? My sister, 30 female, recently had a baby. Early in her pregnancy, she learned of complications and it terrified her. Not least of all because our mom died shortly after giving birth to me, and it has always seemed like the labor was at least partly to blame. When she started to deteriorate, she talked to me and her husband and said she didn't want our stepmother there when she gave birth or while she was recovering, and asked I not tell them when she went into labor. Her reason was she didn't want to be reminded of what could happen if she died, that her son's stepmother could be like ours was. Someone who was so insecure and paranoid about the fact we didn't want to stop talking or hearing about her, that she emotionally tried to suffocate us and beg for the role as mom from us. It was a real minefield growing up. She was worse with me because I was so young when she entered my life. I was 3, and she really wanted to be my mom. But the way she reacted to stuff is why I never saw her in that light. Like the time my sister and I were singing happy birthday to our mom up in heaven, because as kids we believe that, and we both don't now, and she started crying about how it was so mean to do that to her and all this stuff. Our dad never cared. He saw it as her wanting to be there and love us, and none of this was bad. I was 5 during that incident. When I was 10, she broke down sobbing because I wanted to spend the summer with my maternal grandparents. So even though we both know her husband would never let her be forgotten, she was still terrified. And so I did what she asked, and her labor did almost kill her. It was very touch and go for a bit, but she pulled through, and then I called our father. The fallout of it has been huge, and I'm being blamed. My dad told me I should have defied her wishes so they could say goodbye to their daughter if anything had happened. And even with my sister saying it was her wishes, he called me an a-hole and told me I had hurt my mother. I told him my mother wasn't alive to be hurt, which started another fight. But even some extended family have been saying I should have discarded my sister's wishes. So I've got to ask, am I the a-hole? This one is easy. Not the a-hole. You cannot reveal someone's private medical information without their permission, with very few exceptions. The only exception I could think of is that they are putting others in danger without their knowledge. Like if they have an infectious disease but aren't telling the people who are being exposed to the disease. Since that isn't the case here, you have no right to reveal her private medical information to anyone. You did the right thing. Also, the only ethical choice. Edited to add, to clarify, I'm not trying to claim it would be illegal, because I'm not a lawyer. I meant in the ethical sense that you generally should not reveal a person's private medical information to anyone without their permission. In a legal sense, this really only applies to doctors and other medical personnel, or if you tell your boss, then they can't go and spread it around. There are no real ramifications for family telling family or others. In a moral sense, it's a prick move. Agree that Opie is not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your sister made her wishes clear, and you abided by them. That information wasn't yours to share. You acted completely appropriately. And if your dad doesn't understand why your sister didn't want the stepmom in the delivery room, someone should explain it to him. You're a good sibling. Opie doesn't state the rage, but I get the impression that dad has had at least 2 decades to figure out why his daughter wouldn't want his wife in the delivery room, and either doesn't get it or doesn't want to get it. At this point, it might be better to just limit contact with the 2 of them. Stepmom being so jealous of a dead woman that she managed to turn a kid who was 3 when she came into their life against her is telling of how bad she must have been. Not the a-hole. A dying person's wishes always come before the wishes of the living. It's amazing that you fulfilled hers. You're a wonderful sibling. Agreed. Also, a pregnant person's decisions about/during labor are more important than anyone else. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my infertile friend after she got pregnant? For about 10 years, I, female 28, have been in a group of friends, 6 couples and 3 singles. One of the couples, Jane, female 32, and John, male 33, started trying for a baby about 6 to 7 years ago, and they found out that they most likely would never have a baby, at least not without help. They were pretty open about this with us, and we were all supportive. Neither of the rest of us were trying at that time, but they asked that whenever someone got pregnant, we would let them know in private and respect that they might need some space. Until 4 years ago, it was all fine between us all. But Jane still hadn't gotten pregnant and was struggling a lot, especially with several of our friends having babies, including me and my husband, male 32. Jane didn't want to be around as much, and she asked that we step down on contact. All of us with kids, that is. We understood and respected it, although of course we missed her. But after a while, she started talking bad about us to our friends without kids, and posting things on Facebook and Instagram, basically ranting about how awful we all were, and that we were having kids to rub it in her face that she couldn't get pregnant. After about a year of this, I blocked her and everything. Dad didn't hear from her until a few days ago. She's 7 months pregnant and she wants to make up and put the past behind us. But I don't want to. I'm still hurt by the things she said about me and my kids and our friends. I understand she was hurting and struggling a lot with her friends having babies when she wanted to so bad, and I do forgive her. But I just don't want to let her back in my life. Most of our friends feel the same way. But our single friends and one couple who were child-free thinks we're too hard on Jane, and that we should forgive her. Basically, they're saying that since we all have kids, we should be more understanding, because we, more than them, know how much Jane and John wanted kids and a family, and we understand their needs since we have it too. But Jane was really horrible and said awful, hurtful things, even though we did what we could to be respectful and supportive, and did all they ask of us. I just can't bring myself to be close with her again. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I am happy for you and understand where your anger came from for all these years. But the things you said and did were public and extremely hurtful. I forgive you, but I am not ready to reestablish a friendship right now. I will contact you if I'm ready to talk. Yep, this right here. We also suffered from 5 years of infertility. It was hell. Seeing her being around kids was emotional torture. Know what we didn't do? Blame our friends and people with kids for it and take it out on them. She's the a-hole, and that behavior is inexcusable. Not the a-hole. She doesn't get to use her fertility issues as a get-out-of-jail-free card for horrible behavior. Yeah, life is hard and crappy. Not an excuse. I personally had a horrible childhood and had certain experiences that caused long-lasting trauma. I've never been a vile human to people I called my friends because of my inability to get therapy and take responsibility for myself. I have been out of control at times, but I made sure the only person I could affect in those times was myself. I'm obviously not going to say exactly what happened or the situation I was in, but it makes infertility look like a walk in the park. She's a childish person and a bad friend. Not the a-hole. It's one thing for her to distance herself from her friends with kids, although I still think she should have gotten therapy for that. But to badmouth, you crossed the line. Not the a-hole. As a woman who can't have kids, I understand the pain of watching everyone around you enjoy something you desperately want but can't have. As a person of integrity, I don't allow those feelings to punish those around me, and I work hard not to suck the natural joy out of procreation situations. Your friend has behaved in a way that shows her poor character. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister-in-law around my kids? So, my brother and sister-in-law are child-free by choice. I have 2-year-old twins with my wife that I gave birth to after having suffered 2 miscarriages previously. Aside from Lucy not being that enthusiastic about them, everything seemed fine. But then recently, a friend of mine joined a few private child-free groups on Facebook. One turned out to be one of the more toxic child-free groups, similar to main child-free sub on here to give you an idea, and she saw that Lucy had been posting about me and my kids. Posts dating back to when I was pregnant with my twins, saying that it was so sad to see me putting myself through this again after the miscarriages, and basically implying I was pitiable and stupid for wanting this and whatever. Implied that this was especially so because I'm obviously married to a woman, so couldn't get pregnant naturally. And then complaining that I thought the world revolved around me for being pregnant. At the time I was on bed rest during my high-risk pregnancy. And that I shouldn't complain because I chose this. And then complaining about kids, and how whenever she sees my family, everything revolves around them. And calling my kids brats and ranting about them being badly behaved and dirty, etc, etc. Now, I would say I'm pretty strict with my kids. I know I'm still somewhat biased as their mother, but I really don't think my kids are that badly behaved for their age. I mean, they're 2 for Pete's sake. They're going to be irrational. They're going to have tantrums and get upset over tiny things. They're going to sneeze and drool and drop crumbs and make a mess sometimes. It is fine for her to not want to be around that, but that doesn't mean she gets to call me and my wife and kids every name under the book. Breeders, crotch goblin, all the typical ones. Anyway, my friend sent me screenshots of these posts and I was pretty pissed. I went on our family group chat, just me, my wife, my parents, Alex and Lucy, and my younger sister on there, and posted the screenshots and said that someone has brought these to my attention, and Lucy doesn't have to love my kids. But I won't tolerate anyone talking about them like that, and I will not feel comfortable having her around them for a while. Alex got Lucy to send me an apology. But while I acknowledge it, I don't think her feelings have changed, and I still don't want her around them and will not let Alex see them if she's present. Alex is really upset about being caught in the middle and kind of implied I'm withholding my kids from him to punish him from what Lucy did, and says that I should forgive her because she was just venting in private and would never say that to our faces. In my opinion, that's not the point. It's not about forgiving her. I just don't want someone around my kids that would say that stuff about them. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, some people are questioning why I sent screenshots in family group. It was because usually when Alex and Lucy come to town, they stay with my parents, and I wanted to make it clear to everyone that I wouldn't be bringing my kids into any situation where Lucy was there, at least for the foreseeable future. Not the a-hole. She wasn't venting in private. She was making vile comments about you, your pregnancy, and your children on social media. You are under no obligation to have her near you, your children, or your property unless you wish it. No one is putting anyone in the middle. She acted horribly and is now facing the consequences of her actions. Your brother can still see them. She wasn't venting in private. The amount of people who mix social media up is mad. It's a public forum. Whether you're letting off steam or being hand on Bible truthful, you're putting it out into the world. Not the a-hole. Lucy said horrible things about you and your children. Many things. I could get past a comment or two, but she's been actively posting hateful things about you/your family for years. If Alex wants to see your kids, he can see them solo. His excuse that she was just venting in private is absurd. Posting stuff on Facebook is the opposite of private. The fact that she would never say that to your faces doesn't help. It just means she's two-faced and fake. Agreed. Unfortunately for them, the cat's out of the bag, and they'll have to deal with the fallout now. Alex will have to suck it up and see the twins on his own. And if he keeps complaining, remind him that this will keep Lucy happy because she won't have to see the kids and have a reason to complain about them or your choice to have them. This is frankly a kind compromise. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Because she was just venting in private and would never say that to our faces. Yes, because talking bad about you behind your back is so much more acceptable. Your brother does get to see your children without Lucy present, so you are not punishing him. If he chooses to not see the kids, that's punishing himself. You don't have to associate with people who call you breeder or your kids crotch goblins. Child-free is a perfectly fine choice for your life. You should let others make choices about their lives as well without your opinion, as long as their choice does not negatively affect you. Seriously, everyone's saying everyone sucks here she's allowed to vent in private, or glossing over the fact that she crap-talked Opie behind her back. If anything, she's doing her sister-in-law a favor. She doesn't like Opie's kids, so now she doesn't have to put up with them.